Welcome back to Moving to New Zealand with Ashley. I do not have a guest with me today, but I'm going to answer a few questions that I've received and talk about just a few updates. So, thank you for joining me. I did have a response on the podcast Instagram page saying, Ashley, you should talk about this feeling that you're having, which was based on a reel that I made and shared. And basically, it was more to be funny, but it said, I'm thinking about quitting everything and moving to another country. And then it's like, but I already quit everything and moved to another country. And so the person who wanted me to talk about it said they had moved here to New Zealand. They've already moved here and now they want to move somewhere else. And then I've seen a lot of this happening on other pages about moving to New Zealand. Like someone from Italy was like, we lived in New Zealand and then we moved to Italy for a better life and better opportunity and thought we were going to love it because we loved visiting here. And now we're here and we actually don't like living here and we want to move back to New Zealand. Or should we move to a different country? And I think there are people that just are adventurers and feel that way in general. I also think a little bit of like the grass is always greener plays a role in stuff like that. I could always have a pretty good perspective on knowing grass was not greener elsewhere. And like even when I was living in New Hampshire and we were talking about moving to New Zealand and people said that all the time, like, it doesn't mean the grass is going to be greener. And I'm like, I understand that. But also I am kind of a thrill seeker, adventure seeker. So to me, I was like, well, it's an adventure, like let's try it. Let's do something new. It's not, and I'm not like a forever person. So I'm like, oh, I can always come back. I can always pivot. I can always go backwards. Like, yes, we want to move forward in life, but if I want to go back to something I already was at, I can do that. Like nothing's really stopping me. I guess financially it could, but yeah. So that might be a sentiment that some people are feeling here right now. I do hang around a lot of Americans who maybe toy with the idea of going to Australia from here because Australia is just so much bigger. There's more opportunity. It's more American-ish, as in it's just larger continent and has more population and it has, I don't know. I don't know if it has Whole Foods, but maybe like the Trader Joe's and the Zara and Amazon and, just a lot of that commercial kind of stuff. But even people now who are in Australia are like, oh, the cost of living here is crazy. And the people in Italy are like, the cost of living here is crazy. And I think the cost of living is crazy everywhere. Even when I was in New Hampshire last month, I used to fill a cart at Trader Joe's, I don't know, for $120. And now like $120 was a few bags. It certainly wasn't a cart full. So I think that really is the reality everywhere, not just New Zealand. However, New Zealand was in a recession and had a hurting economy before it hit other places, like because I was here and it definitely hit here first. And that could have been because we shut down for so long during COVID. And so we were feeling the impact of the shutdown sooner. But then Christchurch, which is, one of the major cities within New Zealand, they're doing great. So even if New Zealand is still not doing well and the unemployment rate in New Zealand is at an 11-year record high, and there's places that are really hurting. Christchurch is in a boom, people are moving here from other parts of New Zealand, people are moving here from Australia, other countries. And so there is a lot of building and construction going on here. They're building houses, they're building commercial properties. There's new hotels. We have a new stadium, which was funded by the government. And then like another new sports arena place that was funded by the government. The convention center was funded by, so there's like a lot of projects that are funded by the government, but there's also a lot of private investment and private property development as well. So like Christchurch seems to be the booming place in New Zealand. But then, if everyone's moving here, then the property prices can go up and the roads get busier. And is the infrastructure really built for all these people? So yeah, anyways, that's what's going on here. Speaking of COVID, it's been 5 years since we moved here, which I was having all my time hops and memories of 5 years ago in MIQ, which was New Zealand's managed isolation, where we had to go into a hotel room for 2 weeks and weren't allowed outside for the first 5 days, and basically, it was absolute torture in jail for me, and, everyone's talking about a certain trial in Massachusetts right now, and back here in New Zealand, a person who was in MIQ at the same time as I was with her 3 kids, from another country, moved here. She was in healthcare. Her husband was a doctor. They were in the MIQ for 2 weeks with a 6-year-old and 2-year-old twins, and she killed her 3 children right after she got out of MIQ. And, like, her husband got out and went right to work, and she was home alone with the kids with no supports, and, you know, that story came up, the other day with a friend of mine. A friend and myself were talking about it, and I said, "I never had, like, postpartum depression or anxiety. My pregnancies, births, deliveries, post-deliveries, all that was pretty easy for me, but that MIQ, like, that broke me." And that wasn't even, like, postpartum, that wasn't even hormonal. That was just torture for me. I am I cannot sit around in a house that I own, that I have, like, my own stuff in for a whole day, never mind sitting in a tiny hotel room, with no escape and being served food that upset my stomach and gave us all flatulence, and oh, no thank you. So anyways, I found, like, my journals from that time too, and I had wrote, like I said, I got in the shower today with all my clothes on, and I'm like, I don't have a memory of that, but I don't, like, I can't imagine why I would do that, but that was probably some kind of psychotic moment I was having, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, that's behind me, but I'll always hold a grudge to New Zealand for that one. Um, and so, yeah, we've been here 5 years, and I was also in a New Zealand travel tips page the other day, and there's, like, a whole thing about what tourists can do in Christchurch, and there's just so many recommendations and comments and suggestions, and I went through and I'm like, "I've done all of this stuff." So I've been a very good tourist living here. We've explored a lot, adventured a lot, and so I can recommend a lot to people as well, and always up to trying new things as they come out, or new places. There's a country, no, what are they calling it? A honky tonk bar opening this weekend in Christchurch. I guess there's one in Auckland as well. But this week, they were, like, showing the preparation of getting it ready. So they're, like, gonna have cowboy hats and, like, the guy who's opening it, I think he's a Kiwi, but he lived in Nashville for 10 years, so he has, like, that exposure. And they were putting up this huge mural of, Dolly Parton. And today is the day, I don't know when you'll listen to this, but when I woke up this morning, no, it was after I woke up, I don't know. But basically, Miss Dolly Parton, has passed away today. And so that will be interesting how they honor her. Well, they showed, a video of them, like, putting flowers next to the mural of her and stuff. So I wonder if they'll honor her this weekend with their grand opening. But yeah, honky tonk West, something like the South kinda thing here in Christchurch, that could be fun. And so, yes, Christchurch is a booming in many ways. Speaking of 5 years that I have been here, I was in the process, of getting ready and preparing for the move, 6 years ago, 5.5 years ago. And so some of my listeners are people who have already done the move, and some of them are people who are thinking about it. But as always, I am open to discussing any any of these places in your journey with any guest. I am open to diversity of thought and where you are at in the experience. So even if you are on the US end and you're preparing or getting ready and you're going through the motions now of, wrapping up your life and coming here, please reach out. We can do something on Teams, and I'm just really open to having as many guests on with different perspectives and experiences, because I think a lot of our experiences here, are different. And a lot of people move here, and just the freedom and the stress-free life of not having to worry about healthcare, I know is huge for so many people. And I understand that. When I've talked to people who said they had $150,000 worth of medical debt in the US and, living with that fear sounds, I mean, I have anxiety for strangers who said they went through that. I never experienced stuff like that because we always had free health or, not free healthcare through employers. And then even in our transition, when we no longer had it through our employers and we're moving here, we had it through our states. Where we had to buy our own through the state, but it was like income tested. And at that point, we weren't really having a lot of income because we were moving here. And so it was very affordable. And then, and also in my state, all kids are covered no matter what. So if your parents can't put you on their own plan, then the state pays. So, yeah, it's definitely such a burden for so many people and such a relief to not be tied to a job because of benefits. Yeah, which is not the case here, of course. And I do remember like saying, "Oh, you need health insurance because like what if you have an accident or, you know, break your leg or any of that." And here anything that's an accident is covered under an entirely different scheme. It's like a different healthcare plan kind of. Um it's so people can't really sue each other and it removes liability from businesses and other places. So whether you get hurt at work or hurt on the ski field, ACC will step up. But it also like any, government funded scheme, like Annika, my older daughter, she broke her two front teeth. Like when we first moved here, she fell over her scooter and they snapped really high up, like near the root. So they didn't actually like come out. They were her adult teeth, but they snapped so far up. And so they built the teeth up with like composite. And this was years ago. And they said when she's a teenager, we can do something more permanent, like veneers or caps, and it will look better. Well, we went last week and they're like, no, actually, ACC doesn't like to pay for like a permanent solution for a teenager because she might break them again playing sports. They only want to pay to fix them once. And she's like, and since she's not having like mental health issues or low confidence or struggling, she's not refusing to smile, there we can't really argue it. And I was like, well, how do you know she's not having closed mouth smiles out in public, and how do you know she's not self-conscious, and how do you know people don't make fun of her? I mean, those were pretty heavy assumptions for the dentist to make. Also, the dentist here, I scheduled them for cleanings, and the cleaning for an entire cleaning was like 12 minutes for a kid. They just aren't really into that for kids here. And they don't do a lot of like, I haven't even had a cleaning in a while, but I went last week as well. And my cleaning was a full 60 minutes. The dentist never came in, didn't look at me. It was just the hygienist. And she scraped and scraped and scraped every single tooth front and back. Like I could hear the scraping the whole time. It was a very different experience to what I'm used to for hygienist cleanings. But yeah, I think it was $220 for that cleaning. Um, and that's not covered under the healthcare system. Children are covered under the dental healthcare plan, but adults are not. But then I had to pay for my younger daughter to go to the same dentist as my older daughter because that's that dentist, that pediatric dentist that my older one goes to because she's older and she had the teeth issue. So she just goes there that's where she goes. I had to pay $100 for the younger one to go there because she's supposed to go to like a government dental van that comes to school or these other dental clinics that are government run, but they're more like people in school learning to be a dentist. And we have tried it. We have tried it. And that's a no for us. But, it's not like people who can't get their kid to a dentist or can't afford it, they have an option, which is great. I think people who need that extra support should have it. And my kids do not want to see a dentist without me present. They're not for that. They want me still at those things. That was a long story to tell you that healthcare is less of a burden here for people. And of course, people just feel safer than they did in a lot of the American areas. I have still not met anyone from New Hampshire who has moved to New Zealand. Massachusetts, Vermont, not Maine, actually. New York, tons of Colorado. I mean, tons. Every day I meet someone from Colorado. So if you are listening and you know someone or you are someone who moved here from New Hampshire, let me know. I don't know if it's because New Hampshire is such a small state. People who live there generally do not leave in general, unless they go to Boston or something. But, New Hampshire people seem to stay there. So, yeah, that would be an interesting perspective to get. I would like that perspective. So if you know someone, let me know. Another big difference is that sports are very different here. Okay, I was volunteering at Park Run the other day, which is very big in New Zealand, UK, Australia. Does not seem to be big in the US, but it's a 5K every Saturday at 8 a.m. all around the world. I'm doing a project for them, and the top finisher the other day was this 20-year-old boy, man, 20-year-old young man, and he finished it in like 15 minutes. It's a 5K, and I went up to talk to him after, and it was his very first park run ever, so he really wasn't a good subject for my research because it was his first one. But I said, "Wow, you're so fast. Like, what do you do?" And I was like, "Do you just like go around and do other races?" And he said, "Well, I play track and I got a full scholarship to a US university in Missouri for track. And I went there and I played, and it was just so competitive and so much pressure. I didn't like it. And I came home, and now I go to the local university and do track here, and it's more fun." And I said, "You are not the first person to tell me, like a Kiwi that got a full scholarship for sport, golf, hockey, rowing, whatever, went to America and hated the high pressure of it all and came back to go to university here." And he said everyone said the academics were fine. They were able to handle the academics. It was the sport culture and pressure. So that is very interesting to hear. My daughter is exploring different university options because here in New Zealand, even at her young age of 15, she is in year 11. She's almost at the end of year 11. Then she has year 12 and 13 to go, but they want her picking classes for next year that are going to line up with what she does for her career. They already want you taking courses at this level in high school for your future career. So when you get to university here, you are already into what you need to know. So they can just get to the meat of the stuff. They don't do gen eds. They're not into that stuff. It's like get to what your degree is, which makes sense of why an entire law degree is 4 years, or like medical degree to become a doctor is 5 or 6. It's like nothing like the US. It's not undergrad and then law school or undergrad and then med school. It's all one program. And here, everyone gets in as long as you pass your classes and get credits for them. And it's not like ABCD, whatever. It's just you get your credits by achieving what you need to achieve. And then you take these exams for each of the subjects and you pass your exams, and you can either do achieved, merit, or excellence, but they don't even really care if you got merit or excellence. You just have to achieve it. And then you basically apply online to a university in New Zealand. It takes 5 minutes and that's it. You're in. It's harder to get housing than it is to actually get into the university. Then when you get to the university and they're all public, you get here, that's when it gets harder. So you have to work really hard your first year, because if you don't achieve high enough grades and exam results, then you can't go on to the next year. So you might have 500 kids starting first year law, but only 250 are going to go on to the second year because they're not going to take the people who aren't taking it serious. So it's very different, where in the US, it's so hard to get in. But here it's easy to get in. No essays, extracurriculars, AP classes, none of that shit. But then it's harder to maintain and stay in it till the end. That's more competitive. So anyway, so we're trying to make her classes, and she still wants to leave American University on the table. But each American university has different requirements for overseas international students. And so yeah, we have to look up different things at different schools. And what advice I've been given is that, and not by the career counselor at her school did not give good advice at all. And she goes to a private school now. She did 2 years at a public high school. She's now at a private all-girls school. And it's fine. The lady just knows New Zealand schools, and that's fine. But she told her to take this class that was so silly. But what you need for American universities are 4 years of sciences, where here you only need 2. 4 years of math, here you only need 2, So I was telling my daughter, I'm like, you gotta do the hard sciences, like biology, chemistry, physics, and then math, calculus, you got to do the hard stuff because that's what the US wants to see that you're doing. So we'll see how that goes. And yeah, so that's a big difference with the pressure. Like, kids just don't have that pressure here for a lot of things. And of course, a lot of Americans love that for their kids. Where my kids are getting a little bit older, and I find that my older one is like scrolling a lot, and on, stuff that's not helping her brain grow. So I'm like, you got time to scroll, you got time to do homework or have some other pressure in your life. I feel like she has a lot of extra capacity that I kind of want her to have more pressure, because at some point in life, there is going to be pressure. There is going to be stress. There is going to be things that are really demanding. And if you don't learn how to handle those things as a teenager, it's going to be a heck of a lot harder when you're older. So I certainly don't want my kids like stressed the fuck out, but I also want a little pressure, So there's a sweet spot, I'm sure, in there. Um, and I'm trying to figure that out. Also, the Prime Minister in New Zealand yesterday announced that they are going to be banning social media for anyone under 16. Now, this is very interesting. So the Prime Minister right now, he is National Party. Now, the National Party, um, is the more conservative party, so like a Republican. And then the Labour Party is more like Democrat. And then we have lots of other parties in between, like the ACT Party, the New Zealand First Party, the Māori Party, the Green Party. There's like lots of parties. And they like form coalitions. But there are two major parties, but the other ones still have like prime parliament members and stuff. So we are in an election year. So like things are heating up. The economy sucks. People are struggling. So a lot of people, well, no, I'm sorry, investors are doing great. People in building construction, they're doing great. A lot of people are doing great. I mean, when I drop my daughter off at school every day, I'm like, it's me and my little Nissan SUV, and everyone else is like Range Rover, Maseratis, Porsches, like every other name brand car. So like lots of people are doing fabulous here, especially with the booming Christchurch. If you got into that early, that's great. Um, Also, the stock market, there's a New Zealand stock market, but obviously with 5 million people, it's not as big as it is in the US. We don't have these like Fortune 500 companies and stuff like that. So people are not making as much money on stocks here, like even when they're doing well, kind of thing. Although the Christchurch airport just reported their record profits ever. And I've done quite a bit of research on them through my MBA, but their money does not even primarily come from planes and passengers. It comes from all of their leases. They own a ton of land. They have a lot of investment properties, and they lease land and places that stores are at, and then their freight. So they have a really big freight area of land for all of people's Temu packages that are coming in. Online shopping in New Zealand has really picked up. We didn't have a lot of online shopping for a long time. We still don't have Amazon Prime. If people order Amazon, it's coming from Australia or the US or somewhere else. It's not coming from New Zealand. So, and it's certainly not coming in 2 days. It takes like weeks. So, but online shopping is absolutely picking up here in Temu. It's kind of like Shein, I guess, but sells a lot more things. Like Temu sells everything. That is, there's a lot of Temu coming in to the airport here. And then, of course, like shipping and exporting food and salmon and dairy and all this stuff from around the South Island. Yeah. We have, so we have the elections coming up, and the party that recommended or wants the ban on social media, there's a lot of opposition to that. And it's interesting because he's like the conservative party, and he's the one that wants it. Like his party wants the ban. But then when I shared that on my Instagram, it was all of like my very liberal US friends who were clapping to that, like, oh, yay, this is great. And I was thinking, oh, that's funny because they probably don't know he's like the conservative party. They wouldn't like it if this was America, they would not like it for the pure fact that it came from a Republican kind of thing. That's how different America is that you follow your party so strictly, or a lot of people do, that's just how it is. And here people aren't like that. Like they cross parties, not everyone. but a lot of people will, like, cross parties by the issue or by the candidate and stuff like that, and there's just, like, a lot less, division around politics here, and yeah, but I did read a lot of the opposition to the social media thing because they're gonna require, like, ID, you have to put in your ID, and then it's, like, closer to digital ID, and adults are gonna have to put in their ID to get social media, and then that's, like, Big Brother-ish, and this is, like, overstepping, and we're, like, one step closer to digital currency as well, like, there is a lot of that. So, there's privacy issues, so some people think that the social media is a parenting issue, like, just don't let your kids have it. So, I'm not sure if this is gonna move forward, especially with it being a political year. It doesn't sound like he has a lot of support from other parties. And I know Australia did it. And I mean, the kids just find ways around it. So I'm not sure where that's going to go. But in an idealistic kind of point of view as a parent, I would love my children off social media. I would love them to interact with their friends off of social media. I hate it. It's like my biggest struggle as a parent, and it's not even, like, bad for us, like, we don't have any bullying. My kids aren't bullied, they're not bulliers, they do a lot of activities, they don't isolate, they eat dinner with us every night as a family, they are pretty well-rounded, good kids, like, they don't get in trouble, they have leadership roles, like, good stuff, but their brains being rotted and influenced and everything else by social media is definitely my biggest, like, stress as a parent. Yeah, and just it's not productive. It's not I just don't like bed rotting, I don't like couch rotting, but I'm also a very active person, and, like, I deleted Instagram last week because I felt like I was, like, scrolling too much because I was avoiding other tasks I needed to do. So, yeah, like, I mean, like, there's addiction, there's dopamine hits, all that good stuff. Anyway, um so we'll see where that goes. But yeah, I guess more or less I'm gonna wrap up because I have to actually go pick up my child. She has tennis. Oh, she wants to do rowing at school. And the season is like, I don't know, I think it's about 2 terms. Like, yeah, 2 terms. I don't know if they do it in the summer or not, but the price of it is $6,000 to do rowing. And I really wanted her to do it, but I mean, that is insane amount of money, and I don't even know if she'll like it. She hasn't tried it yet. So there is going to be a handful of opportunities for her to try it out for free. And then there's a camp that's like 3 days long where she stays in the dorm rooms. And she, like, does the bike safety course because I guess they, like, ride their bike to and from the water where they row, and then, they'll do, like, ground training, gym training, and getting on the water and, like, learning all these things, and that camp is 3 days long, and I think it was, like, $400, and then if you choose after that, then you lose the $400, but if you choose to move forward, then it goes towards the fees. So I'm thinking, like, 3-day camp, like, at least I hate to not try it, um, and so that's where I'm leaning, that she at least gives it a try, but that season does overlap with tennis and volleyball, which are, like, the only other 2 sports she really plays. She didn't play a winter sport the past couple terms, so I don't know. We'll see what she figures out, I'll let you know, but I would love to get in, like, be a rowing mom, or at least that sounds exciting to watch. My other daughter this winter, she played 3 sports. She has never done that for one, season, but she did netball, which is a New Zealand sport, and she's a goalkeeper, even though it's a basket, but it's called goalkeeper. Um, and she's, like, done like, it's her first year, and she really grew in that. And then she plays basketball, which we all know, and then korfball, which is, like, a sport from the Netherlands, and those are all net sports, but they all have different very different rules, but that's been really fun to watch her, like, be on good teams and win and do well, and so I do like being a sport mom, for sure. But if you, would like to come on, or you have any other questions or topics you'd like me to discuss, I'm always welcome to the diversity in thought, diversity in experiences, and as far as wanting to move to another country, I don't know. Maybe I just get antsy being in one place. Maybe it's just this place doesn't feel like home as much as I love many things, and every day I can find these, like, beautiful things about living here, and, there's lots of great things, of course. And then there's stuff that I don't like, and so, it 5 years in, it just still doesn't feel like home to me, but it still feels like a home, if that makes sense. Um, but my kids are happy for the most part, and that's important, of course. So, yeah, that's where we're at. So, I will talk to you guys next time.